Good afternoon. My name is Irene, and I'm going to be talking about nonverbal communication in the workplace. Our first slide is about the types of relationships in the workplace. This includes employee to customer, employee to employee, and the supervisor to employee, which is the relationship that we're going to be talking about. This relationship is between a superior and a subordinate, with the supervisor having the control and the employee being the one subordinate with less control of the situation. So 4 characteristics of the supervisor-employee relationship that Richmond and McCroskey referenced was that the supervisor can ask the employee to perform their job tasks. The supervisor has a right to the higher status. They have earned it. Supervisor can reward or punish subordinates. This can be verbal or nonverbal. And the supervisor can choose to impart information to the subordinate or not. Moving on to slide 4, now talking a bit more about the nonverbal communication in this relationship. We're going to first talk about physical appearance. So we all know that often in the first impression it comes from a person's clothing. So it's important that when we dress in the workplace, we dress for the job that we're performing, and we dress well and give a good impression, especially in a job interview. Clothing can also denote the status within the organization. Higher level executives tend to be in a suit, dressed nicer, and Richmond and McCroskey actually recommend to dress for the position above your own, showing that that is where you would like to be, improving your chances of getting a promotion. Lower employees also are more recommended to conform to the company's status to show, or company dress code to show that their willingness to work and their team effort and be accepted as part of the company. Talking in slide 5 about the environment, we know that the location of an office can indicate status. The bigger the office, the higher the status. And the arrangement of an office can also indicate the type of relationship a supervisor wants to have with their employees. Sometimes offices are set up purely for business. There's a chair across from the desk, and that's it. Other offices will incorporate a space for a sofa and some chairs, kind of a more relaxed space, indicating a little bit more welcoming into the office. Also, the location and open door policy of a supervisor's office can indicate the type of relationship they want to have with their employees. An open door and a location central to the employee's space can indicate that a supervisor wants to be close to their employees, be involved, and wants to discuss employees' concerns or ideas, have them kind of welcome into their office, while having the supervisor's office far from the employee area with a closed door, kind of secluded location, indicates less involvement, more purely business relationship. And obviously this is not always the case. Supervisors don't always choose their office location or the size, the way that it's ranged. But these can be indicative of those things. Moving on to slide 6 about space and touch. A supervisor is much more likely than an employee to invade the employee's space. And the employee will more likely remain slightly hesitant, stay back a little from the supervisor for fear of offending them by coming too close, while a supervisor is the more likely one to initiate a type close relationship, physical contact. And which moves us into the next point about touch. That touch can be an acknowledgement of good work, such as a pat on the back, squeeze the shoulder, a high five, show that the supervisor appreciates the employee's good work. But Richmond and McCroskey do recommend that the supervisor and employee should have an established relationship before any touch is involved. Especially nowadays, we don't want any touch to be misconstrued as sexual or in any other way harassing. So, and employees are much more likely to be touched than to touch their supervisor. They don't want to cross a boundary there. And moving on to facial and vocal behavior. So when we're talking about eye contact, employees use eye contact to show attentiveness to their supervisor, while supervisors feel that need less because they are the ones already in control, and they use eye contact to control the situation, as is referenced in Richmond and McCroskey. In addition, the lower and stronger voice, the vocal behavior, is seen as more carrying more authority, though that is also obviously often subjective. And employees are also more likely to be judged by their voice. They're more likely to be judged for their enthusiasm, for the sound, like do they seem attentive, do they seem like they're interested. And also silence is an important part of vocal behavior. When an employee is silent, especially when their supervisor is speaking, they are showing that they are paying attention, while when a supervisor may use silence to show that they are considering what an employee has been telling them. Moving on to supervisor nonverbal immediacy, which according to Gia et al. 2016 is supervisor non-immediacy is behaviors such as sitting close, touching, nodding, smiling, and being vocally expressive. So these types of behaviors by a supervisor can definitely influence the type of relationship between a supervisor and an employee. These behaviors increase both physical and psychological closeness between two people, establishing a more comfortable relationship. And supervisor nonverbal immediacy has been linked to increased job satisfaction, motivation, respect for a supervisor, comfort at work, willingness to engage and work hard for a company. Moving on to slide 9 about the effects on employee experience, which we've touched on a little bit. In the study that Gia referenced, employees were found to have increased feelings of emotional support when a supervisor had nonverbal immediacy, did establish that type of relationship. And emotion work was negatively correlated with increased supervisor nonverbal immediacy, which essentially means that when a supervisor is closer and more personal, more accessible to their employees, the emotion work that is done to maintain a relationship when there's a difference between internal and external feelings, that was decreased. So, which is a good thing, because decreased emotion work means more relaxation, more ease, while increased emotion work is correlated with negative psychological effects, more strain on an employee. Moving on to slide 10, supervisor nonverbal immediacy effects on employee experience. The reason this is found to be so significant is because most emotions are communicated nonverbally, so these are nonverbal behaviors that show a positive correlation between the supervisor's behavior and the employee's feelings of emotional support and comfort at work. And this actually reduces the stress on a supervisor-employee relationship. Often these are professional relationships, not the way you are with your friends. And so this allows a little bit more relaxation and ease into that relationship. And this increases an employee's motivation to be at work and to work hard. And that is the end of my presentation on nonverbal communication in the workplace. And the last slide 11, has my references, the Richmond and McCroskey, which is the book we've been reading in class, and the article that I referenced with the study on nonverbal immediacy. Thank you.